Exciting times over here. I think I've found a couple of ways to monetize this with basically doing no injury to the people who watch this show. Well, Zora, you can mint your podcast on Zora. I was just talking to those guys last night. They were basically just like, "Why aren't you doing this?" Very interesting. And then I thought also provide the links. Artist Journal, September 22nd, Friday, 2023, broadcasting to the world from inner space in Berlin, Germany. My name is Adrian Pocobelli. Look at this brilliant RJ work. Before we go into RJ, though, I am just curious. Feel free to leave a comment on what you think about this, because for me, I'm just one dude. I'll talk to mom over the weekend. I'll see what mom says, right? But I'm just one dude. So riddle me this. This is the idea for potentially monetizing first, and let me bring it up here. First, you go to Zora, and I had a wonderful meeting with the guys there yesterday, who again were sort of saying, "Why aren't you doing this?" Let me just bring it up here, if I can. And they were saying, "Why aren't you minting with the podcast page?" And other people have actually said, have commented, and we've read the comments here, or I've read the comments here. Because look, there's podcast, and they were showing me this. And I mean, I guess what sort of surprises me is there's actually a market to mint this stuff. And what's so brilliant about doing it on Zora is they can take up to 2 gigabyte files. So this all starts to become possible. And look at how many mints are here. So very, very interesting. So maybe a way of monetizing. And now my only concerns, and again, this is basically why I'm sharing this, is I was like, there should be no issues as far as it's not like I'm giving up any sort of licensing rights, right? This is like an NFT. It's the same thing as art. And I think Sabato does, it's very clear in the description, all rights reserved. You make it clear. So I don't really see any downside to it. And if people want to collect, I think it's awesome and it's fun. And then some money comes in the door with no advertising. So it's kind of too beautiful to a certain degree, but I'm kind of curious if the reason I'm sharing this here is what other people might think of that. The other idea I had, as we go back to the wonderful, brilliant RJ, again, this is the kind of art, not to get ahead of myself, this is the kind of art that I feel like I can show to an institution and say, like, you should care about this, and do it with full conviction and go, look at this, spectral Hockney here. David Hockney, like it's common ground. But before we get into this, the other way of monetizing, I thought, was just doing something of convenience, which is you do it maybe on Substack. Maybe we put the Pixel Art Network on, or the pixelnetwork.art on Substack. And then you have basically an area where if you want the links to each of these tabs, basically all lined up for you, you can do it. You don't need to search for it. And maybe it comes out while it's uploading, so you get maybe a 15-minute head start. And if you're a collector anyway, maybe you can afford the, $10 perhaps per month to get to get the head start. Because if you're going to collect anyway, you should be able to afford the $10, one would think. So I'm curious to hear what other people think about this. As I always like to say here, it's kind of integrity and values before everything. So if you think that there's something, I don't know, that I'm missing something, or maybe it's somehow, I've been very careful not to put ads on, but it is a fun way, I thought, a couple of ways of monetizing. So if anybody has any ideas or feedback, I guess I'm searching for feedback on this. If you think it's a good idea, bad idea for some reason, do let me know. So let's look at RJ, the brilliant and wonderful RJ. And here we have a spectral Hockney. And what we mean by that, or what I mean by that, and what I think RJ means by that, is, as you can see here, After AI trained on David Hockney and a wonderfully small 850 pixels by 850 pixels, and this is why you have to love Tezos as well. Currently going for, I don't know, what is that, $20, $22 for this one of one RJ. I don't even want to, I don't even want to share this because I may come in there in 8 hours and 54 minutes. And I'm probably just increasing the FOMO as I say this, but what a brilliant work. And the color. Look at the beautiful color and the concept. Like, one thing's to use AI and you're doing all sorts of wild sort of things with it, right? Visually. Uh, but this is what I love about this concept, and I've always kind of loved this concept. And as soon as I saw it, again, it's something I want to kind of cheer from the sidelines here, is this idea of remixing artists' work, training AI on David Hockney, getting a persuasive Hockney back, and using that as pastiche. And that is what we're seeing here, I think. And to RJ's credit, it's not like this is a simple trace job here, even though to some degrees it is. But look at how good the color is here. And we have to say, look at how good the selection is. And of course, it all looks easy, doesn't it? But he did it first, as far as I understand. Maybe there's other people. I mean, the thought had crossed my mind. But, one thing's to have the thought, another, everything is execution, right? That's why you can't do everything, because you actually have to execute. In order to execute, you have to take time, focus, and I have to say RJ is just doing a brilliant job here. It's almost has a touch of Hopper in it, in the feeling, almost in those buildings in the background, but it's got this kind of 1970s David Hockney feel, these interiors, and of course, the signature here, the laptop. And so and beautifully done. And don't forget, there's probably more, there's interpretation in tracing too. I'm a huge fan of tracing, and I use the term loosely, quote unquote tracing, but there's a huge amount of interpretation that goes in here too. I mean, probably the source image here is not using these huge blocks. It's probably got like gradients of shadow. So it's not like there's no interpretation going on here. So all to say, a gorgeous work. And I mean, as the contemporary, traditional art world is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, look at us. Look at how spoiled we are out here being able to spend $21. I mean, maybe it'll go for a lot more, but so far, this is going for $21. This one of one, digital, I use the term too loosely, but, this digital, tempting to call masterpiece. I mean, it has this calm. Now, I've probably completely priced myself out of bidding on this at this point, but it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful work. And it's a sort of work, finally, double portrait in a screen. Is that what it's called? Double portrait in screen. Beautiful title. To me, this is the kind of work that you can walk into the contemporary art gallery or museum, and then what's the big thing that you see when you enter in? And that's why I'm starting, the newspaper, the imagination here, with this work. Like, it's just, you walk in and it's just like, grand. The tone is set, and just a grand work. Let's call it that. It's a grand work. So just such a huge fan of RJ. A huge thank you. A huge thank you. I was really proud of this work. Surprising Secrets of Costco's Food Court. A huge thank you to Dr. Lee Nadler. Dr. Nadler. Sorry, Der Nadler. A huge thank you to Der Nadler, who is also a very interesting artist, a massive collector on Tezos. A massive collector. I've had Der Nadler's art on the show before, months ago. And here is Der Nadler, if you've never seen a great AI artist. And let's see if it loads up here, but a massive collector. So unfortunately, we're going to come back to Der Nadler at a future episode. But yeah, a recognized AI artist. So anyways, a nice sale for me. And I was so thrilled about how this work came out. Yeah, just really fun. And sometimes when you're working, it just feels like a work hits. Here's Der Nadler. Yes, so many of you will be familiar with Dernadler's work here. So again, in a lot of shows here, and again, we've shown a lot of this work on the show in previous months, but I wanted to show you something else. Again, I posted this last night. Like, Dernadler collects so much art that I'm not even on the page anymore. Look at this. 867 pages, so times 24. So we're talking about like 18,000, let's say, rough back of the napkin estimate, 18,000 artworks. Now, for context, the Neue Nationalgalerie here in Berlin, I was looking on their website. You know how many works are in their collection? 1,800. So Dernadler actually has a 10 times bigger collection than the Neue Nationalgalerie, as far as I understand. Again, I'm not an expert in these things, but that is what I remember. So just huge thank you to Dernadler. Really appreciate it. And to all the comments on that. Very fun. And more in the pipeline. I've been really enjoying making that series over the last few weeks. Santiago Isacodal. Nice to see Fedor Opeza featured. His name is Daniel Oropeza. He is from Venezuela and lives in Panama. He is also an academic musician, and several of his digital works include music compositions. So very interesting. Crash Stop. Thank you for the comment, as always, Santiago Isacodal. Crash Stop. Now, remember Crash Stop yesterday had the 4 generations of digital art, which I thought it sounded so perfect. I was almost like, this could be out of a textbook. Nope, not from a textbook, from a general feeling and from general discussion within the community. As I say, I'm more from a glitch art end of things, but I will take on board what you were saying about pixel art and those who come from maybe a more game perspective. Good comments, and I'm going to have to incorporate that into the definition. I mean, my first computer was a Commodore 64 Christmas 83. I wonder if we're about the same age. Yeah, my mom brought home the Apple IIe probably in, I'm guessing, 84, and I was 5 years old. Shout out to Mom in Saskatoon there. First computer was a Commodore 64, and and I remember that actually when I was in grade school. Those were the computers that they had. They bought like 20 or 30 computers when I was basically in grade 6. And the computer game that they kind of allowed to have on there, that they had on there, that we could actually play to the, which I think was good for everybody, was the Origin Trail, which is just a fun, pretty innocent video game. And I had to hand type in listings and alter them as well. Learning how to alter sprites, etc., and back up onto cassettes. Obviously need to include more about game alteration, ROM corruption. I mean, there's the whole Jody Sod alterations of Wolfenstein 3D, etc. Good show, good insights. Thank you, Crash Stop. And yeah, I think the jury is very much open. I think, as I was saying last time, I think the big breakthrough for me personally, and people may have already completely have figured this out, as you're basically saying, general discussion, maybe in the glitch art community, where there's a lot of brains, they may have figured this out a long time ago. But for me, I always kind of thought of digital art as being kind of so new that it was kind of just seen as a blob. And for me, it was kind of like a paradigm shift after doing this show for about a year that I realized there's a difference between what I almost want to say. The reason I say generation is because it's almost like digital art from 30, 40, 50 years ago, sometimes 60 or 70. I mean, probably the oldest stuff. There's a difference between that and almost vibe, in spirit, compared to what I'd say of the last 30 years. And it is tricky because, I mean, Curio actually sent me an article of like the first pixel artists, some of the first pixel artists who were actually doing it kind of seriously. And those were in like early 2000s, as far as I understand. Again, video games, of course, were before that, but they weren't necessarily self-consciously artists or art. Like they were making video games in their minds, one could argue. Although I'm sure a lot of them were like, this is beautiful, and they liked it. So who knows? But all to say, it feels like tricky to put too many categories. But I thought the categories that were put were quite good. Social media, net art, yeah. So I just thought they were, so anyways, thank you. And please continue to comment where you see fit. More than welcome. And thank you, Salieri, for the encouragement. And also, Atlas Pop, great episode. Just for your information, I noticed Silva Santu's piece Pirates, which we're going to look at in a second here, you mentioned uses the same source material as Glitchtown's piece Game Over 1. I think this is and Glitchtown has been watching this show, has been commenting at least since almost since the beginning. Game Over 1, and we're going to look at this piece too here. I think this is a cool way to see different artists' styles and trajectories when starting with the same canvas, so to speak. And Silva weighs in. I didn't know him. I'm surprised to see how the same source, the same corruptor, and the same part of the game recorded, and yet completely different results. Glitch art is magic. Exactly not what I expected either. And then Sabato. Funny you mentioned that, because I've made some glitches using Bimini Run, which is the game, recently as well. And I think part of it is, racing games tend to work pretty well. Like even car racing games, you've seen Haiti Rocket and Sabato also do race. They're pretty fun, just from a visual drama perspective. What I'm curious about is whether Silva and Glitchtown found out about the game from YouTube's recommendation algorithm. It's funny that we all glitched the same game around the same time. That's a great question, and if anybody knows the answer, Silva or Glitch, feel free to weigh in. So here is the work by Glitchtown Arcade. I think we may have looked at this. I'm not positive if we caught this one. But as you see here, really intense kind of glitch here. And then, of course, we looked at this one yesterday. So you see now, I don't know if I don't think they're demos. I mean, again, remember the Sabato glitch ROM from yesterday? One of the beautiful, brilliant things about what Sabato was doing, and I think which makes it easier and simpler, and from a conceptual point of view, pretty clean, so to speak, is using the demos. Because then you're just altering what's already there. You don't need to play the game. So I wonder if these are demos, interestingly. So all to say, thank you for the comment, Atlas Pop. That was super interesting. Popple, weighing in on the Ombelin show, the curator at Object there. Missed the live. I'm in a swamp. With Popple, you never know what kind of swamp he might be in. Listening to the recording now, so nice. Totally had similar experience about Trad Art World being closed up and difficult to approach. We've seen some trying to make similar circles in this space too, and they shall not prevail. And they shall have no prevail. So, yeah, I mean, it's one of the beautiful things about this scene is maybe just because it's so... I was almost going to use the word, there's a naivete because it's so new, and it almost was, birthed out of kind of a crypto sort of digital art. There are many artists who are not necessarily super out of the tradition or out of the contemporary art world, who maybe in 2021, coming from poor countries, were just like, maybe this is a way I can make a bit of extra money, and then all of a sudden they're doing fabulous. Not crazy. So maybe there is a bit of a different culture which we have to be very grateful for. To Popple's point, and indeed, they shall not prevail. I'm all for that. Because Kathleen, if you didn't listen to the episode, was saying, how she never really felt overly comfortable in the contemporary art world. And for me, I'm always still surprised. I'll go out and all of a sudden I'll be like, oh yeah, there's this pecking order, and people are trying to put you, not every time, but it definitely exists out there. So something to be grateful for out here and to protect. To Popple's point, Kelowna Contemporary, here's the dilemma. A dilemma for us. Digital artists be like, here's an NFT for 1 ETH and get a free print. Premium value on the token. Trad artists are like, here's a print for $1,200 and get a free NFT. Premium value on the print. The challenge, Former accounts for 5% of worldwide art sales, while Ladder, the traditional art world, or physical art world, 95%. Spread way too lopsided. So how do we shrink that spread? Focus can only be on getting trad art collectors to adopt NFTs onboarding. And you know what I think the big issue is with the onboarding? And I think it's a very simple issue, actually, in theory, to fix. And Ombelin was mentioning this, that she knows a lot, that she had collector friends when she was working in London who still are kind of like, this NFT thing is not for me. But in my experience, I've talked to people who aren't even that crypto, but who have people who have gone through the experience of actually buying an NFT. It's like buying crypto. Once they do, there's an understanding that theory can't, you have to experience it. Theory, you can't explain it to someone, I would argue, as someone who's lived that myself. Okay, so I remember talking to an architect friend in Madrid, Javier, and he wasn't like and this is a year and a half ago, a friend of a friend, and became friends with him. He's like, "Oh, you're into NFTs? I just bought an NFT," and he was so excited. He's like, "This is amazing," and I was like, "Yeah, you kind of need to buy it." He's like, "Absolutely." So the good news I would say on this is, I don't think it's a huge this isn't like a huge hurdle. It is and it isn't. Let's put it that way. In practice, it's, you set up a wallet, and I think the wallets are going to get easier and better. People are talking about getting rid of seed phrases. Let me continue what Kelowna Contemporary was saying here. I think we can play a significant role in helping artists expand their base by leveraging physical work to introduce collectors to their digital work. Exactly. Like maybe when you sell a physical work, you say, "Hey, we'll give you the digital. Just set up the wallet. We'll help you. We'll show you how." And then all of a sudden, they're off they go. And here's all the digital work you can buy from them. But emphasis has to be on the physical until mainstreaming of Web3 occurs. Until then, the economics are just unsustainable, and collector base not big enough to sustain space. Thoughts? And we saw this from Jack yesterday, showing there are 12,000 wallets that log in on a monthly basis, monthly users onto Object. And that includes like all the wallets that log on to Object. So how many are actually kind of active? 2 or 3,000, maybe 4,000, even if it's 6,000. I mean, so all to say, I think Kelowna is right. Michele Kelowna is absolutely right that it's not a huge collector base. Something to celebrate as well from just from a participant's point of view. So interesting comments there and fodder for the discussion. Sabato. Earlier today, the official edition of Untitled #1 by Keith Haring sold at Christie's for a hammer price of $352,800. Now, I'm always wondering if Sabato is indeed forging this news. Maybe, but I'm sure it's sold by now. So, because of course Sabato put out, let me just quickly look. Sabato put out the forgery, and I can't tell if this is part of Sabato's conceptual art games here. Let's just see if we have 3.8. I don't see any headlines off the top here. $3.8 million sale. So I'm not sure, actually. Weirdly, I don't see a story. Maybe this is accurate. Let's just say it is. The lot met its estimates, but there weren't very many bidders, which is kind of sad. But good news for Keith, over 70 people have collected the forgery. So again, not sure if it's part of a conceptual game. Of course, this is Sabato's beautiful work, which is a huge hit, by the way. When you look on Object, people are bidding a lot of money for it, which I think is actually pretty cool and a successful experiment. Pretty sure he would love a forgery like this. I think so too. Me too. So very cool. Stip and Pixel. This was Tez Art Montreal for Stip and Pixel. 8 animated pieces selected by Sabato were exhibited with his curatorial is themed on dislocation and relocation, and how artists use materialities to relocate themselves in this chaotic world. Hosted by Strano, powered by Tezos, sponsored by Tezos Commons. To celebrate this event, we received a souvenir from Lorna Mills, Montreal Splash. You gotta love how kind of tight this community is. Video compilation of recordings by Strano and Eitzo in September 15th, 16th. So here are some works here. The music is cool. I'm going to hold off, though, just because, and there is Lorna Mills, Tez Art Montreal. I'm going to always hold off on the music a little bit for copyright reasons here, but look at how cool this is. Beautiful. All these TVs. They did a really nice job. And there's Stip and Pixel on the big screen. Look at that. Look at how great this looks on a big screen. I assume that's a big screen. That is super cool. Those colors, massive. I mean, you put that on a big screen. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Dreaming Tulpa. RIP Midjourney. OpenAI, who I believe makes ChatGPT, next version of their image generator. So I didn't realize actually that ChatGPT, if I understand this correctly, actually makes DALL-E as well. I did not realize this. So OpenAI's next version of their image generator, DALL-E 3, is built on ChatGPT and lets you generate and iterate through images simply by using natural language. Now, that's kind of, now I kind of thought you could do that with Midjourney as well, but maybe it's a slightly more technical, and maybe the point is the AI is going to help your language here. Sounds like you're losing a degree of control here, but just kind of interesting to see how the text AI is fusing with the image AI and how they're starting to kind of leverage those against each other. So I don't think it's RIP Midjourney yet, but I haven't really used DALL-E 3. If anybody has any comments on this, I'd be fascinated to hear. So just all kind of interesting. And a work in progress from Luciana Guerra. Look at this. So very cool. This looks like a piece of canvas here. And just a huge work in progress. So nice, almost looks like airbrush or spray or something here. Beautiful work here. And look, it almost looks like here you see a printout of the digital as a kind of reference. Not sure about that, but that's almost what it looks like. Just super cool. From Luciana Guerra. So this, now I kind of rated Curio Fringe's Twitter feed again. And if you want to find magic, go to, like, I'd try and go there a couple of times a week at least. It's just full of magic, and you find crazy, wild stuff like this. Interesting, just stuff you've never seen before. At least I've never seen before. Deniz, You Better Call, edition of 25 for 2 Tezos. And just very interesting digital painting here. Almost has like a Picabia feel to it a little bit, but just really interesting digital art here. I guess this came out July. So this is slightly older, but look, like 9 left. I mean, basically, I'd argue largely undiscovered. So this is an older one. We're going to have more from Curio Fringe's feed there. Just heads up. Human Kernel. I had my eye on this. Unfortunately, the auction ended at 5 in the morning. But beautiful, beautiful piece. Love these squares here. Which again, remember, and I think Santiago is Human Kernel. Remember also experimenting with those diagonal squares, and now you have, it's a nice contrast here. And here you have big chunky kind of squares, different textures, and they look like they're kind of quickly done, but they're beautiful. Like in a good way, you might say. A 1 of 1, and what did this sell for? 50 Tezos to Mo P. Wellington, the AI artist, not a number opening the bidding. So again, familiar names here. Human Kernel accepts the world as it is, and great, interesting title, and just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Of 1914, a discovery from Curio Fringe about a week ago. Nuestra Noche, so I assume that's Spanish. I do not know what it means. It is sold out here, edition of 3, and 1 of 1, Magician and Winter Wallet. And again, just more super interesting kind of gradient art, for lack of a better term here. That appears to be a flower, kind of semi-abstract, semi-representational, edition of 3. Gotta love it. And Ranixter with some beautiful gradients here. And this is called Chromatic Spin, edition of 11. There are 8 left, and let's just hit play on this thing. And there you see it. So kind of cycling through colors a little bit here. So a very nice piece here by Ranixter. Again, another kind of bordering on abstraction and representation, not clear which, and a lot of gradients. Interesting piece, a mysterious piece here by PP Universal. This is on Ethereum, on Foundation, and then you die. I missed this one, and I think it might be the Genesis work here. I thought it was just kind of a strange unusual work here with this desktop computer and what looks like karateka. Doesn't that look like karateka? That's actually a game I had on the Apple IIe back in '84. That looks like karateka. And then a foot coming in. So kind of a surreal work here. And then see that little yellow line. So how much is this going for? No reserve and no listing price. But a mysterious juxtaposition, isn't it? Look at this cool work, a one of one by Rustic Digital Art, selling for only 30 Tezos to Scamra. Nice work. And again, you have to love Tezos. Here you're getting cool digital paintings, very fun subject matter, sports, a very underutilized theme. The visuality, as I like to say, of sports and even of the production of these, ESPN and everything and all the graphics that come in, NFL, World Cup, the visuality, the visual experience of sports these days is spectacular. And it's really cool. I'm always thrilled when I see tennis or, hear football, soccer, and you have the ads, beautifully painted, by the way, by Rustic in this kind of loose style, not worrying too much, kind of impressionistic even. And you see here Adidas. So it seems like there's a reference, but not worrying too much, putting the outline here. Gorgeous poetry. Like what a deal Scamra got on this. $20. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Wasteman Goldminovich, Private Beach. So another digital painting and kind of a commentary almost on, and here's a couple of chairs here, almost a commentary on these properties that you hear about, say, in Hawaii, where billionaires will come in, buy up the beach, and then people can no longer access it. So maybe a commentary here. These almost look like burnt ships, don't they? I mean, I think of like those conquistadors. Who was it who burnt the ships when they arrived into South America? It wasn't Columbus, it was the other guys. It's just off the tip of my tongue here. They burnt the ships and they went in, kind of reminiscent of that. I'm not sure if that's a reference to that, but that's what makes me think of. So interesting there. And maybe this is a rich person on the beach. I don't know. And then a couple of chairs on this empty, desolate beach, private beach from Wasteman Goldminovich, edition of 9, 2 Tezos 50. And this is already on secondary. So nice work. 2 Tezos on primary. Nice work, Wasteman. Boo Boy with a new work. This just came out as I was loading up the show. Run Out the Life Box. Boo Boy. And this has already got a bid of 0.121. I mean, one of the cool things about Foundation, the reason I was able to put it in last minute is because I got an email as I was getting the music ready, and I was like, oh, Boo Boy is got to work from, so Foundation puts out those email notifications when you're following people. That is pretty cool. Maybe that's why there's already a bid, interestingly. So yeah, I mean, look, listed at 11:08, probably the email goes out, and then 11:41, there is a bid, and there's already 2 bids. You gotta love it. So just interesting work. What's it called? Run Out the Life Box. So a more minimal work here from Boo Boy, the guy in the suit, and it's like a person. It's like a business person with the kind of trademark happy face here, a lot of texture, and not sure what that is. Maybe sky, clouds of a certain kind, kind of abstracted, pretty cool. And then even here, almost the motion, kind of, just kind of impressionistic, shall we say. And 4 points in the corners here. And then this, I mean, very unusual too, this big rectangle here. Just interesting work, beautiful color. And then, I mean, running through a desert is what it seems like. Maybe this is water. Who knows? Pretty interesting. Ruvilsky, Terrace, Home of Freedom. So a classic Tezos artist, one of the first I discovered when I was, if you go early in my collection, you'll see a bunch of work. I think it's Ruvilsky. There are a couple of what I'd call psychedelic illustrators that kind of have this similar analogous style, and Ruvilsky is one of them. And as you can see here, kind of got definitely a psychedelic feeling. You see some mushrooms here, a couple of skulls, and, has this kind of underground comics feel from the late 60s, early 70s. And then here, the eye in the middle with the sun coming up, kind of like classic psychedelic comics, COMIX, or poster art. Big shout out to I'm thinking of Rata as I speak these words here. Shout out to Rata. Edition of 15, and they are at 5 Tezos each, and there are 15 left. So a few left there. Tornado Rodriguez, and let me just see how many are left. 7 left. So a rare work by Tornado Rodriguez on Tezos here, Human Landing. So let's just load this up here. So a pretty cool work here. We see the UFO, maybe like a bud figure here with 6 eyes. I picked up one of these, and there is a rat, speaking of which, and going into maybe over here into the street, and then someone on the side with maybe a vinyl, or no, this is on the wall. And then this, so just full of details here. The imagination of Tornado Rodriguez is wonderful. And yeah, so you got to love all this in here. The color, the beautiful color, the interesting color, kind of almost, minimal purple, green, and yellow with a little bit of pink. Super, you can immediately see, identify her work too, after seeing a few of them. Human Landing, cool title too. Nice write-up. So 666 on Tezos. And here is the work in progress. And there you see Tornado in Photoshop here, putting in, and so a cool ad here, nice ad. I mean, one of the trademarks really of the NFT digital art scene is this idea of art ads. And what's interesting about it, like I've talked about this with Instagram before, how it's kind of hard as an artist to put an ad on Instagram as, to follow. But for whatever reason, like I'm maybe this would work. Maybe this kind of ad would actually work. And I think it might. I think it would. So that's all just kind of interesting. A window on the future, perhaps. Look at this. So you see all of the preparatory work here. It looks great. That could almost be minted as an NFT in itself. Daniel W., GM with a work in progress. Always remember to knock first. So another haunted work here from Daniel W., full of texture, black and white. And we see this kind of ghostly figure here raising up. And yeah, just really interesting animation. It's very like just different treatments of the wall, and just by cycling through these different treatments, of the entire image, it creates a kind of drama, and then adds, of course, this animation over here. But even if there is no animation of this figure going up, you could kind of create life in an image just by exporting in different ways, different treatments, and then all of a sudden it becomes an animated GIF with drama. Speaking of drama, check this out. Olin. I can't remember if this was... I went down to Curio Fringe rabbit hole, and I ended up on a few different accounts. This was a really cool piece. This is a super rare artist that I'd never seen before. Again, Olin. And look at these great textures. Really cool feeling piece, isn't it? And this is, I think, with Super Chief Gallery Somaverse, and I think this just got launched. Minting at 0.1 ETH, and already a couple minted, and that's not a small price. Edition of 20. I feel like I'm burning from the inside. Extremely cool work here. And here's another work. Maybe this was, I can't remember. Again, went down the Curio Fringe rabbit hole. I highly recommend. Follow Curio Fringe for some really interesting stuff. This is Olin, of course. And you see here, just a fun, interesting work. I didn't see it minted anywhere, but just a lot of fun. And there you see Olin written on the screen there. So very cool. Continuing on, Kurt Hustle Collective, Vehicle X11, and let's just take a look. Only 10 Tezos, edition of 50. And here you see just this abstract, almost like toy trucks and cars, and then this beautiful glitch here, done here, a very richly textured glitch here from Kurt Hustle Collective. And this was minted on Taya. I believe this is new. Yeah, a lot of people minting on Taya recently. I mean, they kind of fixed the user interface so that you don't have this issue. It loads up much better than it was, say, 6 months ago, if you haven't tried it recently. So that is fun. So check this out. Now we're on Zora again, and this is our friend Muji, I believe, a planet consumed by pixels. And yes, I'm pretty sure this is Muji, so a Genesis work here. Saw it in the Twitter feed, And let me so minting, another free mint. Just pay the fees there. And there it is. So interesting, kind of a more complex work. Again, it's always interesting to see when people go to different blockchains, how they might just try different things out. And here it seems like we're seeing that with Muji, who continues to experiment with these different colors here. To Muji's credit, like keeping it very interesting, but still identifiably their work. Cream Safa, the monolith, coming soon to VerseWorks. And let me we might need to speed up a bit here as usual. So this, I believe, in VerseWorks, remember, I think they were the ones that put this on the building in Manchester. We looked at it several times here. So another beautiful work here, another pixel art factory, as I like to call them here, by Cream Safa. And look at the bottom there. I mean, so much creativity here. Just totally awesome. And so much fun and interesting, just this black and white palette. And here, just celebrating the pixels, really. So this, I think, is the one that was on the building. So coming soon to VerseWorks. I think that's on ETH, but I'm not positive. The other Spiegel's loving it. Fornax Void, check this out. So put out, I think I showed an ad maybe that Fornax Void had done, another ad, I think, or heads up, on X or Twitter, Fornax Void Memory Machine animated cover. So I picked up one of these, only one Tezos here, and let's play it. Really rich synths, memory machine, and this beautiful like horizontal lines. Just super cool. Super duper cool. So Fornax Void, who it's one of those artists again who I'd argue are difficult at the start to understand, but the more you see it, it's like, but they wear really well over time. So yeah, very interesting artist. Edition of 200, only 66 cents. And this is Dither. So I just sort of discovered on Twitter that Dither, remember the TVs, the retro TVs, all the collaborations with Capin, several people on those TVs that the GLBs you could turn around, stickers on the back. So this is Dither's pixel art work. So I didn't see any. So here I thought I'd show some, and using what looks like a reference to a pixel art program and then a hooded figure here. And some different windows here and a whole bunch of dithering. And looks like an old kind of paint program. So very cool, and sold for 0.1. So big congrats. And this came out only a few days ago, I think earlier this week. The story of a man told through a user interface. I love it. I love it. Continuing on, mech.txt and Atelier 407. So a really cool collaboration here. Windows to Fun. This is an edition of 40, now available on secondary for 19. And you see the power of collaboration here. Because again, you're seeing, when I first saw this, I thought it was just mech.txt, and I thought, wow, Mech is really experimenting here, like to his credit. But now I see it's a collaboration, and you see the power of collaboration here. And gotta love these big chunky pixels for contrast with all these smaller pixels. Probably Atelier made all these windows here, and then Mech filled the windows. Super cool, and gotta love that piece there too. That green one at the bottom. And I love the white and black, like the color, the framing device is gorgeous. That yellow, blue, and red, just beautiful. The colors are beautiful. Windows to Fun. And I feel like we saw this in a black and white version, this gate here, just maybe yesterday. So this is mech.txt color studies. Just beautiful, fun color studies posted on Twitter. And again, combining different elements, nature, classical, and sometimes what look like, for as far as I can tell, a Japanese gate. Stippen Pixel. Hops. This is a 0.01 mint on ETH, and I'm not sure how many, if it's an open edition or not, but more just cool work from Stippen Pixel. Of course, we saw them in the intro tabs there with in Tez Montreal. So as we were seeing, look at how great those looked on the big projectors there. And here, just some great textures here. I love the innocence of a lot of Stip and Pixels work. Again, you have the kids playing, the cats, and here you see it again. Really fun and kind of an underutilized aspect. Part of art sometimes is these kind of wonderful, you saw it in the Impressionists, but in the last 50 years, as art got what I'd say sometimes overly sophisticated, sometimes we miss just like moments of innocence. You know, it's tempting to call them. My You, trumpet. And here, so playing again with the music theme, and I'm really enjoying this. Again, it kind of reminds me of vaguely, obliquely of Picasso's Musicians. And here you see the skull figure and the classic colors, My You, instantly identifiable, playing the trumpet. We saw the drummer, I think, last time, so maybe it's a jazz band. Available for $7.50 on Primary, 7 left. And I thought this was really cute. Byte by Bit, 1 of 1 at auction for 5 Tezos, Golf Arena Hole, 6969. And here, a little heart, and there is the golf ball. You gotta love it. And even the water here, a really fun work using, I think, PC Paint 3.1. Again, as we saw with Kappan's work, the power of finding these old softwares that nobody's using, they really, it's like the tools dictate the outcome, right? And so that's true for physical art as well. Do you buy nice acrylics? Do you buy oils? Do you buy charcoal? Do you buy expensive charcoal? Do you buy cheap charcoal? The tools dictate the outcome, and it's kind of a, so that's part of the, if you need a refresh, go find some old software that nobody's using. Or that hasn't been used for a while. Rails moment. This is Manidal on a platform. I think it's a Solana platform. Mallow.art. I think we may have seen this platform once before. Let's see if there's music. Fun. The cat looking out the window. You gotta love it. Meow condo. So cat life. So just super fun. Super fun. Art can be fun. Rails moment. And here for Sol. And is this an edition or a 1 of 1? It looks like it's at auction. Listed for auction. It looks like a 1 of 1 on Solana. And it doesn't, you know, what I see with Solana, just in terms of the markets, like it doesn't look like Solana's going away despite everything that happened with FTX. So just kind of interesting. Like I still have my eye on like eventually minting something on Solana. P1, Bito Moyo. So continuing with what feels like kind of a stained glass pixel art theme here. Here with slightly different colors, more complex pattern. None listed yet. An addition of 10 and just really cool kind of pixel patterns from P1. And here, this is Denyrus. Now, you might remember Denyrus is the guy who did what looked like a Doom video game and the skull came out, The Keys to Success, that brilliant work. Well, I believe that's Denyrus here, and this is on Zora, and this is, Russell, not sure what that says, but cool work, open mint, and look at this. 1,458 mints. So pretty incredible. 8 days to go. So, you know, these free mints, just fascinating. Risotto cubensis, cool name. And this was on X. And just a cool kind of animated abstract work for our edification. And yeah, I couldn't see it minted anywhere. Still a work in progress. If you like it, it is passing the test. Yeah, so a work in progress here from Risotto. LB, everything is fine. And kind of an abstract work here as we see these kind of happy faces drift across the screen at the top and the bottom. So cool video glitch art from LB, edition of 20, and I don't think, and few have been, it looks like sold out, or at least the ones that were listed were sold. 8 sold on Primary. And this is not a number, so now on Zora, gotta love it. So open edition and taking the, I think we saw the last one maybe on Taya. So I'm enjoying doing this too with the Promoted Stories series, just going cross-chain. And I was even thinking if I make a really small one in terms of file size, then, oh, maybe I'll put that on ordinals. 1-bit wave blue. So just another really nice animated abstract. And I think, yeah, P5JS and GIMP. Nice colors there too. Cool title. OSWV cluster. So this is, I feel like I know the name. It's not Blue Retina. Who is the person here? We'll go to their Twitter quickly. Blur281. It is Blur281 with of course, with a work on Zora here, 202 mints. So another, artist that maybe you've seen on Tezos is now on this next wave drop. So this is kind of an interpretation of probably water here. So pretty cool and imaginative here, isn't it? And just adjusting to the theme, putting your style in the theme. I mean, it's a really impressive drop, that wave drop, because of course we know Bleu 281 from these other works here. And so a nice adjustment here, adaptation to the theme for the wave drop. So super cool, Bleu 281. And I think this was a Curio fringe in the feed or somewhere along the lines. Weird Candy. And let me there we go. Pretty cool music. So it looks like an archaic Greek, Egyptian, almost a Goa trance type melody there. Cool. I don't want to play too much. Pretty cool. Again, reminds me of like the 1996 Goa trance there style. Weird Candy, only 2 Tezos. Is this a Desert Island Hallucination? Do Your Worst Mirage Remix came out 19th of September. So there are still 26 of these left. So cool work. Look at Skamra. Another really interesting work here. This is using stable diffusion with diffusers, textual inversion. You know, kind of reminds me of those textures we were seeing with Gozo. So very interesting tree here. I actually picked this up. Trees is the name of the series here. And this looks like there's one tree in the series. So pretty nice work. Pretty original here. So AI being incorporated into the process in really interesting ways these days. Edition of 20, 2 Tezos each. This was definitely in Curio Fringe's feed. Santiago Ruao. So we've looked at Santiago Ruao's work before. I had missed this one. And just an interesting work here. Kind of a mask. Edition of 4 and sold out. El Entrado al Portal. Enter the portal, I think. So interesting. And here might be another one. Error Amulet Ardent Peril. This is by Lucy Benson. And let's just, so I don't think there's volume on this one. So just a nice animated abstract here. So very cool. And here is a final Oivy, Trash, and Techville and Save. Sorry, this is Klaus. This is Klaus. Let me just. And just some cool analog video glitch from Klaus. So cool work there. So lots of great like analog video glitch artists, or however you'd call them. Joe Pease. So Spiegel's actually retweeted this one. Iteration. Yeah, Spiegel's Maskinen. And actually there's volume. We're not going to play the whole thing. Pretty amazing. Almost a Philip Glass kind of feeling. That's beautiful. I love the music. And this delay. So original. Look at this. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Joe Pease, iteration. So yeah, fascinating. At aotm.gallery. Interesting. Continuing on, Salawaki, back on the scene here. One of one. Experimental video here. It had a very interesting title too, as you're going to see in a second here. Looks like it could go in a contemporary art gallery, doesn't it? And I can't...
Go green.
There we go. I have to jump through it because I can't play, just for copyright reasons. You can't play more than 30 seconds, so I try and at least break it up a little bit. Girl Dinner, so check it out. New World Order is the series here, and Go Green. So interesting commentary, kind of an ambiguous commentary. Wasn't so at auction for 70 Tezos. This is a 1 of 1, and just finally here.
This is my meal. I call this Girl Dinner.
11 hours to go, so you can still bid on it. So shout out to Salawaki. Porta Malmar with another post-collage AI artwork. So we're seeing a ton of collage before from Porta Malmar. And here is another one, a lot of 1 of 1s. And again, 5 Tezos. So I thought this one was pretty cool and pretty reasonably priced. And continuing on, of course, you know, the artist Lily Illo with just a really nice work that I'd never seen before. And it all looks fairly normal. And then you look at the hair, and then you see the arm, these wonderful AI distortions, and like the trademark, you know, background there. So just very cool from Lily Illo. And Little Cakes, When the Corn Party Comes Just for You. So a fun theme, a recurring theme for Little Cakes is the corn. So that is cool. Almost photorealistic here. Almost more realistic than a photo. Super high def, three-dimensional looking work here with what looks like a doll, and again, corn for horns. So interesting work by Little Cakes, a 1 of 1. Let's quickly look and just transfer to Islay. Beautiful. Tukes, who now has this different name here. Maybe it's Tukes upside down. Mitternachts Farben, so Midnight Colors is the German there, as I work my German. So an interesting animated AI work from Tukes, isn't it? So that is cool. Always experimenting over there. This is my friend Charlie Stein, actually out of Berlin here, Virtually Yours. She's the person I've been telling you about who actually got on with Kristen Hellergerdy gallery in the last like 3 or 4 months. That was a big deal because I was showing that gallery before that happened. And then all of a sudden I was like, wow, she's getting this up and coming gallery, someone I know. So anyways, and she's doing really interesting work here, as you're going to see. Yeah, look at all these really interesting paintings. So she's doing great, and that's great. Look at this. So very cool. This is also from that gallery, Rune Christensen, and we've looked at work from Rune Christensen. So Kristen Hellergerdy Gallery is what we'll call that there. So just another really nice painting. I've seen some of these in real life a few months ago, and you see underneath, it's almost like neon orange paint underpainting. Super interesting. Makes it kind of modern, right? Rather than the sepia 18th century style. Very cool. And here's Bark Berlin Gallery. That is at Potsdamer Platz here in Berlin. And I thought this was actually a really nice work here too. So interesting artist. Who is the artist? Carla Marchesi. So there is the install. And just really interesting paintings. Might have to go down there and check them out in person. So that is just really nice show, isn't it? And of course, Walk with another super cool work. Love the Polaroid kind of framing here. Kendrick Lamar, we may have looked at this one before. It's possible, but we'll look at it again if we have. And all this great, just brilliance. The brilliance of Walk. And this is on Zora. And who was this? This is who it was. Julie Jelly. And this is what looks like a physical work, again, using kind of an airbrush or spray. And this is on Zora. And you can find it here. 14 have been minted so far. Exoskeleton going right across the page here is the title of the work. And this is Tater Tots. Shout out to Tater Tots, who's giving the shout out to the show. But I thought this was a great example here of just close up of a Tater Tots work. So just beautiful texture here, isn't it? Awesome artist. And there I am. Okay, I didn't even know that. I didn't know that. All right, have a great weekend, everyone. Thanks for joining me. And until next time, take care.